Alright, YouTube, you may have heard the increased chatter among fundamentalist Christians and Muslims in online communities particularly, but also if you watch the news, especially on Fox, you'll see a lot of people claiming that, lo and behold, God's judging hand will come down and smite the heathens for being atheists, for being gay, especially states which legalize gay marriage. You wouldn't believe how many fundamentalists I've seen in the Christianity chat room that I go to debate the Christians in, who claim that God's punishment is going to be poured out upon the states that vote in gay marriage. Apparently that's something God feels really strongly about. He can deal with being warmongers or greedy or corrupt, but he can't deal with homosexuals. So I thought it'd be interesting to dig up some statistics on state rankings. And lo and behold, what did I find? But the most religious red states are actually doing very poorly right now. Actually, the states that are doing the best are predominantly high atheist, liberal, gay-friendly states. And in the description of this video, you'll find links to all of this information. Some of these rankings are a little bit outdated, but the rankings are very much similar to the ones that are listed. Some of them are up to date, some of them are a few years old. The state of Vermont is probably the best single example of the bullcrap arguments of the fundamentalist Christians. It was the first state to legalize gay marriage without having to do so as the result of judicial action. That is, that the state Supreme Court decided that it was unconstitutional to block it. It was the first state to voluntarily legalize civil unions and gay marriage, way ahead of the curve. It's the single most atheist state in the Union, with 34% being completely a-religious. It's also ranked as the fourth most liberal state, although having been to some of the other so-called more liberal states, I would tend to disagree with that and say it's probably the most liberal state. Decriminalized marijuana on par with any of the highly liberal states. You see a lot of churches, but they're primarily town halls, so indeed, Vermont is the most atheist state in the Union. Here, unlike other parts of the country, atheism isn't seen as a bad thing, it's seen as a good thing. So let's go through some of the rankings, noting Vermont against some of its red competitors. It's got the 5th highest graduation rate. All of the 10 lowest states, except for Washington, D.C., and D.C., because it's basically just a city, is just a singular urban outlet, so I don't even know why they count it in the results, per se, because it's basically just one city. But other than D.C., all 10 lowest states, as far as graduation goes, are red, highly religious, Protestant, Bible Belt southern states. Every single one of them. Isn't that sad? So God apparently, if you're gay, you get smitten, but if you don't graduate from high school, that's okay. It's tied for the 10th highest life expectancy. 8 of the top 10 states are blue and highly liberal. All of the lowest 10, again, except for D.C., are red religious states. The state is one of 21 states that's actually, for this year, going to run a surplus. Most of those states are also blue states. Of course, California is probably the best anti-example I can give. I don't know what possesses the Californians. I guess it's just the way their state is set up. That's the one blue state I would never want to visit. California, I don't know what those people are on out there. It's something more powerful than the hippies around here are on. But we'll skip over California for now. It's got the 4th lowest unemployment rate. Again, although the other states, I will give the red states credit on this, and I will put a caveat to this issue. It seems more like rural states just simply have lower unemployment, because the other 3 top 4 states are red, although one is actually more of a swing state than a truly red state, but they're all highly rural, so I could give that caveat. So maybe it's just our rural life here that helps us on that one. 3rd lowest crime rate. Most of the highest crime rates are in, again, red religious states. Now here's what I find interesting. The urbanization that you see in a state like Mississippi or, Alabama, the sort of urban areas which garner the most crime, are really not that different from the urban areas you'd see, for instance, in Massachusetts, yet the crime rate is so much higher. I have to think that part of that is, and also the number of minorities in the urban cities is roughly equivalent, so I don't understand why anyone would be racist and say, well, it's because the black people live in that area. The crime rate's the same for all the white areas around those states as well. Of course, if you look at some place like Virginia, you've got the mountainside, it's almost entirely white rednecks, and then you look at the city side, it's almost entirely minorities. The crime rate is roughly equivalent. It has nothing to do with race, per se. It seems to have more to do with just the fact that people there are highly religious. Maybe religion causes crime. It was rated as the smartest state in the Union. Again, top 10 lowest states, all red religious states. Same with graduation rates, and of course the two are somewhat correlated. If you have a low graduation rate, you can't exactly be expecting a high intelligence rating. I didn't get any statistics on IQ by state, but then I would tend to disagree that that could even be possible because of the different tests that they use, so I didn't bother. It's ranked as the #1 most healthy state. Again, lowest states. Which ones are they? Highly religious, Bible Belt, Southern, Bible-thumping, redneck states. Again, we see this common feature, the quality of life in those highly urbanized states, which also have a rural component as well. For some bizarre reason, the solid faction of the Republican Party, based in the Bible Belt, and in some of the really redneck Midwestern states, seems to have given rise to this poorly educated, highly polluted culture. Whereas up here in Vermont, or in some of the blue states, lo and behold, we got high graduation rates, high intelligence rankings, low dropouts, low unemployment. We've got none of the problems that you see in these other states that really, if these states were being run the same, obviously the rates would be at least roughly equivalent. There's obviously a result of the different ways in which these states are run. The fact is that the South is theocratic. These states are essentially run by the Bible, which is not a proper way to run your state. It's got the lowest pollution output of any state, and here's an interesting feature. This graph actually also puts on the territories of the United States, Costa Rica and Guam and so forth. Vermont, because of this, actually ranks 53rd. It ranks lower than all of the states and several of the territories, most of which are tiny islands, and yet it has the lowest pollution output. Now, that's not to say that we're a bunch of rural rednecks. There are a lot of businesses within Vermont. We've got General Electric has thousands of people working for it. We've got IBM. We've got all of those modern sort of large factories and mills and sort of things that other states have. But if you look at the statistics, the claim of the religious fundamentalists is this. If your state is atheist, if your state is liberal, if your state, especially in the modern context, legalizes gay marriage, their basic claim is that your state will be crushed by the hand of God. I see it being claimed all the time. But if you look at the state of Vermont, that doesn't bear out. Low unemployment, running a surplus, low pollution, low crime, good life expectancy, all of these different things. For some bizarre reason, God obviously has ignored the existence of Vermont. Maybe because it's too rural, maybe because there's so much sin and sodomy here, he simply averts his eyes. But whatever the case may be, the Judeo-Christian claim of the fundamentalists that, lo and behold, you legalize gay marriage, your state will be crushed out of existence, and I've literally seen them say a hurricane will hit your state, you'll be awash in tornadoes and plagues. I've literally seen them say this. Things are going fine here. We were the first state to legalize gay marriage without a judicial input into the matter, the first one to voluntarily legalize it. We're the most atheist state by far. We're, 5 percentage points above the next state in line. And things are fine here. So I don't understand. I'm assuming that the people claiming this, they're assuming that the Bible is true, obviously. They're fundamentalists, they're going to do that. They're assuming that what it says in their book will automatically happen, that God will smite the unbelievers and sodomites that are in these states. Doesn't say much about the United States because they caveat it by saying, oh, well, most of the states have made gay marriage illegal and are run lock, stock, and barrel by fundamentalists, as we see with the Bible Belt and most of the Midwest. Of course, the two coasts, fairly liberal, fairly atheist, everything in between, fairly not. but the facts simply aren't borne out. They're not understanding the actual statistics behind what they're saying. Most of the states running a surplus right now are not red Republican bigoted states. Certainly not North Carolina, certainly not Alabama or Mississippi or any of these other places. They're, regular average states. So in reality, when you look at the facts, it seems like the fundamentalists have their foot in their ass and in their mouth at the same time. They're doing some sort of Asian gymnastics, because what they're saying simply is not true. If Vermont was going to be crushed by virtue of legalizing gay marriage, 12 years later, after legalizing it, I would think something would have actually, no, gay marriage was 2009, sorry. Civil unions was 2000. 12 years later, I think we would have seen some effects from that, but actually our state's been relatively stable. We haven't really felt the recession here. I'm living in Vermont. I don't see most of the problems that people are reporting. Yes, we have the high gas prices. Yes, our unemployment rate rose a little bit from like 4% to like 5.4%. That's terrible. Guess what? That's still lower than the national average was before the recession began. We're lower than the average from before the recession, back when Clinton was in power. Back when it was about, I think, 5.6%. We're lower than that right now. And we're supposedly in a recession, brought on by the angry fist of God because of all of the sodomites. The fact is that the religious people want to blame everything that goes wrong on someone's personal misbehavior. Culturally and anthropologically, you can explain this as simply an extension of their cultural sort of ethos, that they're saying, well, transgressing the going ideals, progress is a bad thing, changing is a bad thing, anything which deviates from our, norms that we've created under the Bible, one nation under God, is a bad thing and will bring God's wrath. But it's simply not borne out by the facts. So you can check out the links for yourself. Educate yourself on this topic. Look at the states that are doing the most poorly. Look at the states that are in the trash heap right now. Almost all of them are run by Republicans and Christians, which are basically the same thing. The Republican Party is the party of Protestant Christianity. The Democrats is basically anyone who's not a Protestant fundamentalist. I hate to say it, and I hate to sound partisan because I don't even really like Obama. He's a middling president. He's like, whatever. Won't vote for him again. I'll vote for Ron Paul. I hate to say it. The Republican Party is totally screwing itself. It's the party of fascist Protestants that want to beat everyone over the head with a Bible. And it's why there's like 2 Republicans in the entire United States who I respect. There's only like 4 or 5 Democrats I respect either, but I have more respect for the party as a whole than the Republicans. It's really just sad when you think about it. I mean, they just don't understand the facts and statistics behind what they're saying. And it really makes them sound ignorant. And you can expose this for yourself. So go to these links, learn the truth, and expose the Christian claims for what they are. Patent nonsense. Peace out.